Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the next episode of History SO1, Reading the Constitution. And this is Thursday, March 21st, 2019, first day of spring. And this is episode 3, Letter of Transmittal. So we'll just talk about this here. I remember we've been talking about the Constitution here. I'm trying to read through it. And there's all the pages. There's page 1, 2, 4 pages. And it turns out once they signed it, they finished writing the Constitution and signed it, the next thing they had to do was send it off to Congress. So I'm just going to show here. Remember I had this, I broke the Constitution down into 10 different parts. Well, it turns out there was another part that I didn't mention, is called the Letter of Transmittal. And this was kind of like a cover letter. And there was a letter to Congress. And basically it said what should happen next. Now, if you think about this, when you send a document, you need to have some kind of a cover letter to tell the people what to do. They're just going to get and say, what are we supposed to do with this thing? We should just read it and file it away, or what? So what you do is you send them a cover letter, which they call a Letter of Transmittal. And I'm sure you do this now. If you send a document to somebody, let's say by email, usually we'll attach the document to your email, and in the email you'll have a little note to say, well, here's the document I proposed, and I want you to read it and sign it and send it back to me, or whatever you want them to do with it. And that's kind of what this is here. So let's just take a look at this, this Letter of Transmittal. And at the time, the Constitutional Convention, I believe, was in Philadelphia, and the Congress usually met in, I think it was New York City. They didn't have Washington, D.C. at the time. So this is what the Letter of Transmittal looked like here. It was on one page. You can see it's got, at the very top, it says there, in convention, Monday, September 17th, 1787. Present, the states of, then it lists all the states. Now let's just enlarge this here so we can read it a little bit better. It says, the states of New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Mr. Hamilton from New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. And it's interesting that the only delegate who's named is Mr. Hamilton, who's Alexander Hamilton, because he was a single delegate from New York. Every other state had 2 or more delegates. And of course, you notice that Rhode Island isn't listed here. But if you look at this document here, or this letter, there's 2 paragraphs. And the first paragraph starts with a big resolved and fancy script. And then there's a second paragraph that also says resolved. So there's basically 2 things that they wanted Congress to do with the Constitution. So what I'm going to do is try to read this here. And I've typed it in here. So actually I cut and pasted it so you can read it more easily. But here's the first thing they asked them to do. This is the first paragraph. It says, resolved that the preceding Constitution be laid before the United States and Congress assembled. Now you notice I've actually separated these things onto separate lines. It's really just one long sentence and on just continuum. But just to understand what they're asking, I separated onto separate lines because it's really like 3 different things they're asking here in this paragraph. So they asked them to lay the Constitution before the assembled Congress, and I'll continue here, and that it is the opinion of this convention that it should be afterwards be submitted to a convention of delegates chosen in each state by the people thereof under the recommendation of its legislature for their assent and ratification. So the second thing they're asking is that they submitted to delegates, a convention of delegates chosen in each state, and they should ratify it. And the third part of it is that each convention assenting to and ratifying the same should give notice thereof to the United States and Congress assembled. So they're asking basically that they send the Constitution to each state, where they'll choose a convention of delegates, and what they'll do is once they ratify it, get back to Congress. The states should tell Congress that they have ratified it. Okay, so now look at the some more of this letter of transmittal. So you notice there's a second paragraph. So the first paragraph tells what they want Congress to do and they want the states to do is form a convention in each state and ratify it. Now, what about after it's been ratified? That's what the second paragraph here covers, what they want done after it's been ratified. So we'll just look at that part here now. And here it is here. Okay, this is the second paragraph. And you notice I've broken it onto separate lines because there are a bunch of different items here. So I'll just read it. It says, resolved, that is the opinion of this convention that as soon as the conventions of 9 states shall have ratified this Constitution, the United States in Congress assembled should fix a day on which electors should be appointed by the states which shall have ratified the same. And a day in which the electors should assemble to vote for the president, and a time and place for commencing proceedings under the Constitution. So the first paragraph said, basically, once the 9 states have ratified it, the Congress should fix a day on which electors should be appointed. And then they should also fix another day on which the electors should assemble to vote for the president. And also fix a date for the time and place for proceeding under the Constitution. Okay, I'll continue with the third part here. That after such publication, the electors should be appointed and the senators and representatives elected. So that's pretty straightforward. They should appoint the electors and then elect the senators and representatives. And the fourth part here, that the electors should meet on the day fixed for the election of the president and should transmit their votes certified, signed, sealed, and directed as the Constitution requires to the Secretary of the United States in Congress assembled. So now it's directing them that the electors should meet on the day fixed for the election of the president and then should send their votes to the Secretary of Congress. Okay, there's some more on this next page here. That the senators and representatives should convene the time and place assigned, and the senators should appoint a president of the Senate for the sole purpose of receiving, opening, and counting the votes for president. So this next part says that the senators and representatives should convene, and that they should appoint a president of the Senate, and what he's going to do is going to count the votes for president. And the last paragraph there is, or the last part, and that after he shall be chosen, the Congress, together with the president, should without delay proceed to execute this Constitution. And that's just saying once the president has been chosen by the electors and the president of the Senate counted the votes and determined who was the president, the Congress and president should start executing this Constitution. And finally, at the bottom it says, by the unanimous order of the convention, George Washington, President. And you notice he abbreviates his name, just G.O. Washington, and he also abbreviated the word President, P-E-I-S-I-D-T. And on the left-hand side is the Secretary, William Jackson, who also signed this document. So that's basically the document. What they've done is they just, like I said, the two parts to it was first to what to do to get it ratified, and then once it's been ratified, to go and what to do after that, to get a president elected and start executing the Constitution. So that's basically this episode here. So you can see we've got like 11 parts now to look at. We've already looked at Article 7, we've looked at the signatories, and now we've looked at the Letter of Transmittal. So we're going to do some more of these in future episodes.